Hello, everyone. I am Assemblywoman Inez E. Dickens, representing the 70th Assembly District in Manhattan, and I'm happy to be joined by the fantastic group of panelists, Dr. Howard Dodson Jr., retired as Director of New York Public Library's Schomburg Center for Research for Black Culture, Leilani Irvin, who is a lifelong resident of Harlem, and is a proud graduate of her HBCU Benedict College, located in Columbia, South Carolina. Dr. Dodson, if you could just give some history, of why it's so important for us to vote, not just in the presidential elections, but in local elections as well.
The issue that's really facing us right now, which is a really nationally coordinated campaign to reduce the number of people of African descent who participated in this election. This is something that didn't start last week or last year. As they've gone through and redone constitutions and other kinds of things, especially in the southern region, to favor full white participation on the one hand, and to discourage the presence of Blacks in the election process as much as possible. This issue goes back at least 100, 150 years, if not longer. And it actually goes back to the beginning of the nation, because at the core is the question of who are citizens of the United States. A certain white supremacist group that go back to the period of the Confederacy, frankly, do not believe that Black people are qualified to be citizens. And only a series of changes in the Constitution and amendments over the years have brought the Black population and women into participation in this. I feel that certainly African American, but every person who claims citizenship in the United States has an obligation to practice that citizenship. And so if we're not voting, then we're giving up our right, first of all, to be participants in it, and second, raising questions about our own status as citizens in the country.
You're very active, Leilani, but what does your generation feel? Why do they feel that their vote doesn't count, that there's no need to vote? Or do you see that they're increasing and changing from that?
From my lens as a millennial, I see it twofold. I see that a lot of young people are becoming a lot more activated and engaged. And then I see the other side where there are a lot of young people who are just simply disgruntled, frustrated with the way in which this country has been operating. I think young people are struggling to identify what role they can play to make that shift. When we look back in our history books and we're told by our family members, all the struggles and fights that we've been through, when we still see this condition. And the young people can't really process, why do we still see this condition? Why hasn't my environment changed much, even if we participate in voting? And my response is, we're not participating on every level of government. It's not enough to just vote for your president, but all politics is local. You have to vote on a local level, state level, federal level. And I think if we can really not just pressure everyone in the community, just vote, we have to really put a lot of emphasis on the why for this generation. And I think that communication piece is somewhat missing. It's the federal policies that's created racial disparities in this country. And so, I think it's also outrageous that out of 100 senators, there's only 3 that are Black. And so if we're not at the table and if our voices are not represented on a federal level, then we can't really complain if we're not doing our due diligence and making sure we're electing the right people that represent us, that reflect our values on every single level of government.
Can you just quickly address just a little bit of what she said, Dr. Dodson?
The motivation for most of the young people who were in the civil rights movement was not to run away from struggle or throw up their hands and say they can't do anything. It was to go to work and organize the counter struggle. And so the movement that we had, and if you've read it, I'm certain, some of the older folk, those from the NAACP or Urban League, et cetera, were going through a court strategy, which was working. But it wasn't moving fast enough for the young people. And so the young people organized what eventually became the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Commission, and just went head to head with those obstacles that were blocking people's full participation in society. And through demonstrations and local community organizing and a little of everything else, we as citizens have that as much as a right as we do the right to vote. Getting frustrated and basically walking away from stuff will change nothing.